The 1919 Mount Vernon Academy Yearbook. According to the text within this yearbook, this is the first yearbook created for our sacred school. To Ned Sullivan Ashton, who has been principal during our course, the senior class of 1919 lovingly dedicates this booklet in appreciation for kind services rendered. Our principal's message. Mount Vernon Academy at the close of the school year 1918 to 1919 has completed its quarter of a century of operation as an institution, established for the purpose of training workers to give a special and distinct message to the world in this generation. We are glad as we look over its history for these past 25 years, that it has been faithfully contributing its share of workers to the home and foreign fields. As a school, Mount Vernon Academy is ideally located and very well equipped to give the special training necessary to enable young men and women to spread the knowledge of the third angel's message. Each year finds an earnest class of young men and young women crowding its classrooms where they receive instructions under conscientious and consecrated teachers. The spiritual influence of the school is always strong, and the life of every young person who comes here is affected thereby according as he is willing to yield himself to such influence. In addition to the regular academic course, Mount Vernon Academy offers strong courses in the music, commercial, carpentry, printing, sewing, and cooking departments. This enables a young man or a young woman to obtain an all-round, practical education. The Academy offers to help any young person anxious to obtain an education and who is willing to apply himself diligently and who is not afraid of work. The printing department offers opportunities to the wide-awake young man whereby he can practically earn his way through school and at the same time learn a very useful trade. The many advantages and opportunities of Mount Vernon Academy say to all our young people in Ohio, West Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, come. Each teacher says come, and the waiting fields that are white to harvest are a mute and mighty appeal to you to come and prepare for a place among the Lord's reapers, that when the harvest is past, and the summer ended you may have sheaves to lay at the Master's feet. Principal Ned Ashton.
Here is the 1919 MVA staff. Standing in the back row we have Mr. Baker, printing. Mrs. Clara Morris, sewing. Miss Maud Crump, oratory. Mr. King, manager. Mrs. King, preceptress and matron. Mrs. Rudolph, domestic science. Mr. Rudolph, carpentry. Standing in the middle row we have Mrs. Miller, English and Latin. Miss Boutel, commercial. Mrs. Ashton, assistant Bible. Miss Hart, preparatory. Mrs. Speck, registrar. Mrs. Templeton, assistant commercial. Seated we have Mr. Miller, music. Mr. Teasdale, history, and French. Elder Ashton, principal, and Bible. Mr. Rockwell, science. Mr. Stipek, preceptor.
Now we will present the seniors of the class of 1919. Emma Silber of Ohio. No duty can overtake her, no need her will outrun, and never her deeds can tell us, of work she has left undone. She forgets her own needs for others. Herself to her neighbors lending, she finds most pleasure in small things, and not in the clouds ascending. Emma was our senior class president. She attended MVA from 1915 to 1919 where she was our secretary-treasurer of the Bible Workers Band, assistant superintendent of the Students' Sabbath School, and leader of the Young People's Missionary Volunteer Society. James E. Lippert of Pennsylvania. His earnest toil and strong endeavor, of spirit which within, tends to work with love and fervor, over each besetting sin. James was our senior class vice president. He attended MVA from 1915 to 1919 where he was our class poet, a leader for the Missionary Volunteer Society, president of our junior class, Sabbath School secretary, leader of the ministerial band, and he was part of the quintet. Clyde Newmeyer of Pennsylvania. From the many trials on his way, he finds in prayer release. And through what dismal shadows lay his pathway unto peace. Clyde attended MVA from 1916 to 1919. He was our senior class secretary, the assistant leader in the Young People's Missionary Volunteer Society, the leader of the ministerial band, Sabbath School secretary, and was a member of the quintet. Ethel May Bell of Ohio. She this alphabet did write. Worked she hard by day and night. But a word about her I would say. She is cheerful, bright and gay. Ethel attended MVA from 1915 to 1919. She was the senior class treasurer, assistant leader in the Young Person MV Society, assistant leader of the third-year mission band, secretary of our junior class, and Sabbath School secretary. Muriel M. Randolph of Ohio. A free and happy girl is she. Endeavors often marred. Victorious her life will be, although the task be hard. Muriel attended MVA from 1914 to 1919, where she was the secretary her second year of the mission band, and she was part of the quintet. J.R. Lowell Randolph of Ohio. A quiet, self-contained man of affairs. His aim is onward. To do and to dare. Lowell attended MVA from 1913 to 1919, where he was the treasurer of the Knights of Valor, and chief chaplain of BSA. Prior to coming to MVA, Lowell attended the Marion High School. Ruth Miller of Ohio. Our young and gentle friend was she. Made bright our school day hours. Amid the task of life's routine, she blended all her powers. Ruth attended MVA from 1918 to 1919, where she was the secretary of the Missionary Volunteer, secretary of the third-year mission band, and was a member of the quintet. Edmund Miller of Ohio. Lengthy of stature. Concise in his speech. Kind and congenial. To all is his reach. Edmund attended MVA from 1918 to 1919, where he was the secretary of the Missionary Volunteers, secretary and leader of the ministerial band, president Knights of Valor, and was a member of the quintet. Grace Morgan of Ohio. Poetic in nature. A girl of the minute. Discover some movement. She's right there, and in it. Grace attended MVA from 1918 to 1919, where she was the assistant pianist for the Missionary Volunteers. Prior to coming to MVA, she attended the Columbus West High School. Leon Murphy of Indiana. Using his knowledge and striving for more, losing some battles, but winning his war. Leon attended MVA from 1915 to 1919, where he was the secretary of the Young People's Missionary Volunteer Society. Helen Beatty of Pennsylvania. Just by her modest, quiet life, built strongly day by day, the larger rocks of truth, and right her deep foundations lay. Helen attended MVA from 1915 to 1919, where she was the secretary of the mission band and Sabbath school assistant superintendent. Before coming to MVA, she attended the Northeast High School. Charles French, of Pennsylvania. Thick is his hair, but not his head, true is his word, and stately his tread. Charles attended MVA from 1914 to 1919, where he was the Sabbath school assistant leader of the Missionary Volunteers, and secretary of the ministerial band. Hazel Reed, of Pennsylvania. Now a smiling schoolmate. Optimistic, staunch, and true. If you wish word of comfort, let her come and speak to you. Hazel attended MVA from 1914 to 1917 and returned her senior year from 1918 to 1919. She was the assistant leader of the third-year mission band, Sabbath school pianist, and was part of the Missionary Volunteers. Anna Schmidt, of Pennsylvania. True and simple. Plain and neat, a friend and a helper, to all she may meet. Anna attended MVA from 1914 to 1919, where she was the leader of the Bible Workers Band.
Class of 1919, President's Address. Members of the faculty, juniors, schoolmates, and friends. The class of 1919 welcomes you to our program this evening. We have come up to this yearly occasion with joy and sorrow, mingled yet with praise and thanksgiving to God who has made it possible. For many years a class of young men and women have gone forth from this place to work in the broad harvest field, and we are indebted to them in a measure for their faithfulness, which has helped to spur us on to even greater achievements. We wish to thank you all for the part you have had in helping us to reach this milestone in our lives, by your interest in our school, and in us individually. While we feel that it has been good for us to be here, yet with our watchword in mind we must pass onward, making room for others, and helping others to come here. The Lord has sent some faithful soul, in the person of a minister, Bible worker, or loved one into Egypt for each one of us, to point out our land of Canaan, and we have come here, and lived out our wilderness experience. During the days and weeks and months and years spent here, we too have come to Marah, and to Rephidim, and to Meribah, when we have murmured and complained. Perhaps we did have some bitter disappointments and trials, but God is faithful, who has promised, and as a result, we are here before you tonight, ready to cross the Jordan, and to help drive out the enemy. Some of our number plan to go on with school life, and others will enter the work, but we pledge ourselves as soldiers of the cross to endure hardness, and climb, though the path be rugged. As we near the end of time, the call for workers becomes louder. Especially is this true since the Great World War, as our work in Europe has been greatly harassed, and it will take laborers' time and means to restore our work there. However, we are not beginning a work, but God has given us the pleasant task of helping to finish it. Yes, we all not only have the privilege of working, but we shall have the blessed privilege of seeing it finished. As has been said, to have had a part in the beginning of the gospel work which has been carried on for ages, was a high privilege indeed. To have a part, at any time in continuing the same, is certainly a glorious honor, but to have a part in the finishing, how thrilling and glorious. Emma Silber.
Climb though the path be rugged. When we come to analyze the character of those by whom we are surrounded, we are forced to the conclusion that for the most part men are neither mentally nor morally what they ought to be. When we contrast the real condition of men, content with a dwarfed intellectual and spiritual growth, with the glorious possibilities of a noble and earnest manhood which might have been theirs, how vast the difference! If we question the experience of those about us, shall we not be convinced that men are prone to sink to what is below rather than to rise to what is above them? The process of leveling down to our surroundings is so much easier than climbing up to our possibilities. Is it not well, then, for the young man at the very outset of his career, if he wishes to climb though the path be rugged, to set before him the example of men who have attained eminence among their associates, and discover, if possible, the method by which they succeeded? The heights by great men reached and kept were not attained by sudden flight. But they, while their companions slept, were toiling upward in the night. Consider Abraham Lincoln, reared in a log cabin, who climbed the rugged path from the very depths of poverty to the heights of fame, and finally became the savior of his country. Think of the path our Savior trod throughout his pilgrimage on earth from the manger of Bethlehem to Calvary's cross. His was nothing but a rugged path. The way to heaven is consecrated by the Savior's footprints. The path may be steep and rugged, but Jesus has traveled that way. His feet have pressed down the cruel thorns, to make the pathway easier for us. Every burden that we are called to bear, He Himself has borne, and through all our trials we have a never-failing helper. We know not the path that's before us, the joys or the griefs it may bring. What clouds are o'erhanging the future? What flowers by the wayside may spring? But there's one who will journey beside us, nor in weal, nor in woe, will forsake. And this is our solace and comfort. He knoweth the way that we take. The path we climb is not a golden staircase bordered by fragrant flowers, but is strewn with many obstacles. This world is but the rugged road, which leads us to the bright abode of peace above. So let us choose that narrow way, which leads no traveler's foot astray from realms of love. It is true that some may rise above us. The poet and the prophet may be wafted in their fiery chariots above the clouds, and we may be unable to follow them in their heavenward flight, but while we gaze after them, their mantle may, perchance, fall upon us, and we may go forth to prophesy in the same spirit, or we may catch some spark of the fire which glowed in their bosom and reflect upon the world its light and heat. Are there difficulties in the path we are to climb? Yes. But must we yield to unfavorable circumstances? No, he who rises in conscious strength above circumstances is himself master of the situation and achiever of success. So shall it ever be with the true-hearted soul who moves steadily onward. Discouragements may gather around him, but they are made only to be overcome, and by overcoming, to develop strength. There may be huge stumbling stones in the path we are going to climb, but they may be made stepping stones upon which the resolute soul hastens on his upward course. The hills of difficulty may rise rugged and steep before us, but they shall be changed by the touch of our feet to the mountain of delight, where the breezes fresh from the fields of the blessed shall fan our brow, and from whose summit we may overlook all intervening difficulties into the celestial city of glorious success. And to my schoolmates I would say, climb though the path be rugged. Climb, never fearing. Climb, schoolmates. Climb. Never faltering, climb with a purpose true, and nothing shall hinder you from reaching the utmost height. Our desire as a class is that God may have His way with us, that our ears may be tuned to hear, and our hearts willing to obey His voice when He says to us, "This is the way, walk ye in it." Our sincere prayer is that as each new day unfolds its measure of opportunities of joy and sorrow, we shall never falter, never waver, but clinging still to our motto and to the hand of Him who has trod the way before us, we may ever press onward and upward, until we stand at last in unbroken number with palms of victory in the presence of the great Teacher. Clyde Newmeyer.
Onward. We have chosen our watchword because our one aim as a class is to move onward. We realize as we finish these 4 years of training that we have but caught a glimpse, as it were, of the great task that lies before us. We not only recognize the magnitude of the work but also our inefficiency to do that work. However, by the help of God, we have purposed in our hearts to press onward and carry out the plan He has for each one of us. It was the determination of Columbus to move onward that makes his name famous today. Likewise we find that Benjamin Franklin obeyed the command onward and rose from his humble boyhood to live the life admired by all. Indeed, every man who has risen to some great height obeyed the voice of our watchword. We can but think of our great teacher, who alone has lived the onward victorious life, and gladly hitch our wagon to a star, yes, the bright and morning star. We do not expect to obey the command of our watchword on eagle's wings, for heaven is not reached by a single bound. But we build the ladder by which we rise from the lowly earth to the vaulted skies, and we mount to its summit round by round. We as a class accept that challenge. When duty whispers, "Lo, thou must," the youth replies, "I can." And tonight as we stand on the threshold of our life's experience, we are ready to answer our call to duty. This we believe is renewed at every rising sun, for we are happy, ever happy, when the day is new as we meet and greet each other with a love that's true, but around us we will find work for both the heart and mind, and the duty that is nearest is the duty we must do. Yes, the duty that is nearest is the first to do, it will help us do the duty that will follow too. And with all our duties done, as they come to every one we will higher and still higher rise to perfect life and true. Christ has said, "No man having put his hand to the plough and looking back is fit for the kingdom of God." We feel tonight that these words were spoken to us and that we must, as did men of the past, press onward with an undaunted purpose regardless of trials or difficulties. These trials may be composed of the most minute details of everyday work. It is not given to many to do great deeds. Our lives are the sums of many trifles. It is while beset by these little duties that our watchword must shine brightest, that we may see beyond the present, to the goal. And forgetting that which is behind we must press forward toward the mark of the high calling in Christ Jesus. If anything in creation ceases to go onward, it soon starts backward. The workman becomes slack, the tree begins to decay, the student grows dull, the machine will rust. Onward, aggressive action is all that will keep the chains of sluggish habit from binding us to the treadmill of daily duties from which the inspiration has died. Rather let us be like Longfellow's sturdy blacksmith, toiling, rejoicing, sorrowing. Onward through life he goes. Each morning sees some task begun, each evening sees its close. Something accomplished, something done, has earned a night's repose. This thus that on the flaming forge of life our characters are wrought, assuming somewhat of the spirit of that great general, Napoleon, when he said to his men, as they stood looking up at the snow-capped mountains, "There shall be no Alps. We have received our orders." The great commander has said, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel unto every creature." It is not a command to go backward but forward, yes, onward to every kindred, tongue, and people. We must and we will obey this command. Marching onward all together, keeping step so firm and true. Marching on in sunny weather, or 'neath skies of leaden hue. Marching onward, never daunted. With a heart and purpose strong. For the right shall ever triumph. And subdue the hosts of wrong. Marching onward, onward ever. Even though fortune smile or frown. Naught from truth our hearts shall sever. Though we may not win renown. Still advancing, staunch and fearless. Onward shall our watchword be. On in might for truth, and God and liberty. Marching onward, swell the story. Faithful students, one and all. God in love is smiling o'er us. On his name for strength we call. Onward till the stars of heaven gleam evening's azure sky. Onward marching, yes. We're marching to our triumph by and by. Leon Murphy.
Retrospective: a conversation that could happen in the future, in 1926.
Anna, I understand you are having great success in your Bible work.
Yes, and I'm enjoying it too. I have 9 regular readings to give each week, besides several new ones. I think several of those who are taking regular readings will soon accept the truth. Some of them went to church last Sabbath and 2 more are going next Sabbath.
That's fine.
What have you been doing since you left Mount Vernon?
Well, I completed the college course and then entered the canvassing work. I think it is one of the best ways of winning the people to the truth.
Yes, I find many people whose interest has been aroused by books.
It certainly does awaken them. Last summer I was asked to assist the lady colporteurs in Colorado, and I enjoy it ever so much. Last week I went to see a girl who is canvassing. She is from Ohio, and is going to Mount Vernon College next year.
Good. Say, what time is it, Ruth? It must be time for Professor French and Dr. Randolph to be here.
Well, I'm not a bit surprised as Professor French was always late to classes and chapel when we were students at MVA.
I expect Dr. Randolph was delayed at his office. I hardly thought he would be a doctor, for he took up carpentry at school and put on the wainscoting in the serving room.
Here they are.
I am sorry to have kept you waiting, but a patient came into the office just as I was leaving.
James, how do you like the medical work by now?
I'm enjoying it very much. Not only because I can help the people physically, but it also opens the way to give the truth. By the way, Helen Beatty wished to be remembered to the Mount Vernon students here.
Where did you see her and what is she doing?
She is a nurse at the sanitarium at Loma Linda.
She was so small and timid when she first came to school, I can hardly picture her being a nurse.
Miss Silber, our class president, came to school that same year. She surely represented the energy of the class. I wonder where she is now.
Did she ever go to Asia?
No, indeed. She always said it's America for me.
I understood that she was going to teach history.
No, indeed she had a brighter ray in view than teaching history. She is someone's private secretary.
There was another that came that same year.
Who was it? Oh, James Lippett. Well, he didn't look very promising when he first came, but was soon on the upward path.
He fulfilled our motto in climbing.
What work is he in now?
President of Maplewood Academy, and his wife is preceptress.
Just guess from whom I received a letter today? One of our old classmates.
Clyde Newmeyer?
No, a girl.
Grace Morgan?
No, Hazel Reed. You know she went to Africa last year about this time.
Who would think she would be so brave as to venture out there alone?
I remember so well when she first came to school, it seems as if it were only yesterday. She was the most homesick girl I ever saw, and if you had even mentioned a mouse, she would faint dead away. Just let me read you a paragraph or 2 of this letter. It surely is inspiring. It is wonderful to be a missionary in Africa. I pass over the difficulties. That is one thing a missionary must learn to do. There is one pleasure in serving these poor souls which I cannot describe to you. Even in this remote place I hear a little news of our classmates of MVA. Yesterday one of the new workers informed me that a young lady, formerly Miss Bell, had recently gone to New Zealand to take charge of one of the newly established schools there. Of course, I knew it was Ethel. I think her husband is entering a new line of work there, but I haven't the slightest idea of who he is.
Is Ethel married?
Yes, but I don't know to whom.
I read in the Visitor some time ago about Mount Vernon Church being dedicated, and who do you suppose was pastor?
Leon Murphy?
No.
Who then?
Clyde Newmeyer.
Well, I do remember the meetings with the prisoners at the sanitarium when Clyde spoke.
Do you remember that friend of his, a butler? He finally became converted, but the last I heard was that Clyde was holding a debate with McVeigh's nephew.
I always thought Edmund Miller would be the debater because of his good arguments in history, and oratory too. Whatever became of Edmund?
He graduated from Berrien Springs and is teaching history at Walla Walla. Leon Murphy is also there, at the head of the science department.
Leon used to put 3 or 4 hours on his geometry every night at MVA, so he deserved his position, I'm sure. But I can hardly picture him as being anything but a farmer, for he raised so much dust when he was a janitor at school.
Dr. Randolph, just before you came in we were speaking about the time you put the wainscoting on in the serving room at school. Since then they have made several improvements. They now have a physical culture department, which includes a swimming pool, and Grace Morgan is teacher.
That reminds me of when she first came to school and asked if the frog pond was the lake.
I used to sit between Grace and Muriel in Bible doctrines class. We certainly used to have a good time. Muriel was jolly too, but always happened to sit where the teacher could watch her, but now she is a teacher herself.
What does she teach?
Commercial work, and the last letter I got from her, things were coming just fine her way.
Why, it's almost time for the evening meeting to begin.
Why, so it is. I'll have to be going as I have a few things to attend to before the meeting.
Well, I certainly have enjoyed this little gathering of some of the senior class of 1919.
So have I.
Valedictory. Tonight we have attained one of our ideals as a class. It is one of the happiest moments of our lives. This is an end to which we have been looking forward through our whole course of studies. And so it is with a measure of pride we have spent this evening. We have enjoyed this school year as classmates. Most of us have spent other years here, but this has been the best of them all. We have shared our joys and sometimes our sorrows. Although our class is somewhat cosmopolitan, we all have the same end in view. In fact, our sojourn together seems much like the lower course of the Mississippi River. From many rivers its water come, they flow in the same channel for miles, until they reach southern Louisiana. Here they separate again, reaching the sea by many routes, but each drop has been changed by its contact with others. And so it is with us. From several states and many counties we have come. During the year that is past, we have flowed in the same channel, that of Mount Vernon Academy. Been changed through our associations. We have our hearts we have set on the eternal city, but as the waters reach the sea by several routes, so shall we reach our goal. We have come to the place where we must choose our several paths. Next Monday night we shall be together for the last time. It is an unheard of thing for a class like this to hold a reunion. Some of us go on to college, others begin their life work, but to all of us, inspiration says, a man's heart deviseth his way, but the Lord directeth his steps. The meek shall he guide in judgment, and the meek will he teach his way. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. Others tell us, press on, and if once or twice thy feet slip back and stumble, harder try. 'Tis the law of him who made you aid yourself, and God will aid you. The spirit of prophecy urges all to do something every day to improve, beautify, and ennoble the life that Christ has purchased with his own blood. Keep your trust in him simple and unfaltering. Every character has an inward spring. Let Christ be it. Every action has a keynote. Let Christ key it. Living out these thoughts, we will be men and women. And the world needs men. True-hearted, strong-minded, Christ-like men. The world has wanted men through years gone by, but never in its history has it cried so loudly and so despairingly. An honest man is the noblest work of God. And the call is for men of God. The call has come to each member of the class of 1919, and we are answering the call. We are promised, in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. We know not whither he will lead us, but we follow on. We only know we cannot drift beyond his love and care. We have our papers from one of the recruiting stations for Prince Emmanuel's army. We shall soon be transferred to a fighting division. The flag of that division is the flag of our alma mater. We shall always be loyal to her. In the heaviest of the engagement with the enemy, our eyes will turn to her for help. Juniors, it is you whom we shall behold first. We shall expect you to be loyal and true, and when another year has rolled around, you then will reverently call her your alma mater too. It will be you who will mold the school spirit next year. Do it kindly and leave a spirit in the school that you can be proud of, and don't look for flaws as you go through life. And even when you find them, 'tis polite and kind to be somewhat blind, and look for the virtue behind them. For the cloudiest night has a hint of light, somewhere in its shadows hiding. The world will never adjust itself to fit your whims to a letter. Things must go wrong your whole life long, and the sooner you learn it the better. It's folly to fight with the infinite, and at last go down in the wrestle. But the wiser man fits into God's plan, as water fits into a vessel. We must say farewell tonight to our teachers who have been our counselors through these years, to the juniors and students with whom we have been mingling, to our friends in the village, farewell, but it is a joyous parting, for all that. The French say au revoir instead of farewell. It means literally, to see again. And that is the farewell with which we wish to leave you. The happy never say, and never hear said, farewell. In parting, this is our resolve. We would be true, for there are those that trust us. We would be pure, for there are those that care. We would be strong, for there is much to suffer. We would be brave, for there is much to dare. We would be friend of all the foe, the friendless. We would be giving, and forget the gift. We would be humble, for we know our weakness. We would look up, and laugh, and love, and lift. Edmund Miller.
Class Poem. Climb though the path be rugged, and the way seems narrow and steep, though the rocks are sharp and jagged, and may scratch and bruise your feet. Climb though the outlook is dreary, and the prize is far out of sight. Onward, comrades! Never weary. Trust and keep up the fight. Climb though the clouds hang o'er you, and the mists of despair on you roll. Leave cares and doubts behind you. Climb onward till you reach the goal. Climb though 'tis dark and stormy, though fears your soul assail. We've a pilot hovering o'er us, to guide up the winding trail. Climb though you're tired and thirsty, and the world seems pleasant and bright. Though further climbing seems useless, onward. Keep your goal in sight. Climb though trials and struggles across your pathway are strewn. Look to the heights above you. Cast off your fears and gloom. Climb though footsore and weary, though blinded with dust and heat. Though chasms yawn far below you, make no missteps with your feet. Climb though the path be rugged, is the cry of our youthful hearts. Onward, classmates! Onward! Duty demands our part. Climb and the mists will vanish, and the dark things will be made plain. The long winding path so rugged will bloom with hope again. Climb and your faith will strengthen, and your vision become more bright. Fix your eyes on your Redeemer. He will make your burdens light. Let us therefore cast off every burden, and the cares which weigh us down. Bend all our strength to conquer, and finally gain a crown. Let us each, with our hearts overflowing with the peace of God's mighty love, climb onward, forward, upward, to the heights of the mount above. There comes o'er my soul a sadness, for soon must we say farewell to our friends, schoolmates, and teachers, and these walls we love so well. The journey is almost ended, and victory is just in sight. God grant we each prove faithful, and live in eternal light. James Lippert.
Class Song. As we're toiling up life's pathway, with a purpose firm and true, there's a song our hearts are singing, as a milestone now we view. Though our days were sometimes cloudy, and our efforts seemed in vain, still we struggled upward, onward, till the distant heights we gained. MVA, our alma mater. Staunch and true we stand for you. Onward, toiling for the Master, is the aim we have in view. We will ever love and cherish all the happy days we spent at our dear old alma mater, with our minds on learning bent. Just before us dawns the vision, beckoning us to onward climb, to the heights of brave endeavor, where our lives may be sublime. Swiftly past the golden moments that we spent at MVA, but the love of duty calls us to go out upon life's way. Now, dear classmates, we must sever, part from those we've learned to love, but we know 'tis not forever, trusting that we'll meet above. Grace Morgan.
Mount Vernon Junior College. Why not? The location of Mount Vernon Academy is splendid. It is 1.5 miles from the city of Mount Vernon, with a good brick road all the way. The village which has grown up around it is composed almost entirely of Seventh-day Adventists, and has but one store. There are groves on the campus, and behind it, a small pond on the rear of the campus and a little lake in the grove behind it, both accessible at all times to the students. Thus we have all the advantages of being in the country, and only 4 or 5 minutes from town by the Academy jitney. Mount Vernon is small, boasting of only about 10,000 population, but it is a pretty town. Almost anything a student desires can be bought from its stores. You can get some idea of the variety by glancing through the last pages of this booklet. Many remark about the real economy they can exercise while shopping at these stores. And while there are advantages gained by being near a large city, yet there are so many more temptations for the youth that the real value of them is questioned. So the location of Mount Vernon for a junior college is ideal. Beautiful for location. It is reached by 2 lines of railroads, the Pennsylvania lines and the Baltimore and Ohio. Mount Vernon Academy was a college prior to 1915. When the collegiate courses were transferred to Washington Missionary College to strengthen her, now Washington is free from debt and so are we and has a firm footing, we ask that half our loan to her be repaid, and without interest. We have sent our college students to Washington Missionary College, and every year we have been proud to see some receive their degrees. But we should like the privileges of studying 2 more years at Mount Vernon Junior College. Mount Vernon Academy has been a college. We still have considerable of the equipment in the various departments, and some additional. We have practically all the paraphernalia for teaching collegiate science. Our commercial department is well equipped with model offices, dictaphone, mimeograph, typewriters and filing systems. It is recognized that those who finish their commercial courses after taking 12 or 14 grades make the best stenographers and tract society secretaries. Give us a chance. Our industries are expanding. Our carpentry department is thoroughly furnished with the latest tools, bandsaw, jointer, and more. The domestic science room was finished just this year and results are already forthcoming. The sewing department is occupying the best quarters this year it ever has had. Our printing office is busy to the limit. These industries are doing well with academic students, but more could be done with junior college students. Let us utilize this equipment to its fullest extent. Mount Vernon Junior College. Of course.
Explanatory. The senior class of 1919 has attempted something heretofore untried at Mount Vernon Academy in getting out this booklet. We think the booklet will let its readers know something of what we have been doing at MVA the past year. It has been one of advancement. We have been more favored than most other schools inasmuch as we did not have to close on account of the flu. The acid test of an institution of this nature is its products. We are proud of Mount Vernon Academy's graduates. In many lands they are scattered, upholding the banners of truth. They say distance lends enchantment, but surely none who have left its doors can harbor lovelier thoughts of their alma mater than we do. Some high tributes were paid MVA by former students in the school number of the Sligonian, but they were not higher than they ought to be. The booklet has been supervised by a committee of 5 from the senior class. Before we had gone far, we realized our incapabilities, and saw where many mistakes could have been avoided. Nevertheless, we trust that you will read it with interest. To many it will refresh old memories, and we doubt not that some will sigh to be back at MVA for a few quiet days again. We wish to thank those who have contributed to our success. The student body came loyally to our aid, the school management, merchants of Mount Vernon, and some others have gladly bought advertising space, and so we cannot claim credit for the success of the booklet. To the reader who has never visited the school, and knows of it only from hearsay, we hope it will awaken in you a desire to come and see for yourself. The Quintet. Bible Workers Band. Not the least in interest and importance among the departments of the school, we consider the Bible Workers Band. This was organized the first Sabbath of the school year with a membership of 34. 1 hour each Sabbath is spent in receiving instruction along the lines of practical Bible work in its various phases. Because of the epidemic, we were not able to do real work until about Christmas, except what could be managed by mail. Our mailing band has sent out about 45 copies of The Signs each week, and cared for the correspondence connected with this. Almost every Sabbath may be seen several groups of young ladies going out to hold cottage meetings with the shut-ins of our community. From 3 to 5 Bible readings are also reported each week. We are having some interesting and profitable experiences with Present Truth, of which we use about 150 weekly. It has been our aim to emphasize the need of personal religion as the foundation of all preparation for the finishing of God's work in the earth. Miss Ida Rock, President. Miss Alice Martin, Secretary.
Junior Appreciations. Beginning with the back row, reading left to right. Mr. K. W. Blaylock has spent 3 years here, and considers it a privilege to attend a school where Christian principles are upheld. Miss Letha Litchfield thinks this year spent at Mount Vernon has been doubly profitable to her. The associations will be remembered. Miss Doris Hickson has enjoyed the Christian Association during her 3 years sojourn here. Mr. John B., our president, taught school several years, but came to MVA for a better preparation. Miss Mildred Schlott has been receiving a Christian education the 2 years she has spent at MVA. Miss Mildred Sloan has spent 2 years at Mount Vernon and has gotten a clearer view of the world's need and desires a preparation for service. Mr. Ralph Chrisman has spent 3 years here. Miss Margaret Schmidt believes the 4 years spent at Mount Vernon have brought her privileges and opportunities not anticipated. Each day has been filled with blessings. Miss Mabel Butler, our secretary, has enjoyed the 3 years spent here and desires to get more education. Miss Ruth Reynolds, realizing the need of workers, is planning to get a thorough preparation. Miss Dorothy Schwegert has spent 2 years at Mount Vernon Academy and prizes highly the pleasant associations and good instruction she has received. Miss Ruth Mellandy enjoys her school work and hopes to have some part in the work. Miss Blanche Rawls is intending to enjoy school life here but has not decided as to her course beyond the academic.
Ministerial Band. The band has a membership of 24 active members. Membership is not restricted to those who expect to be ministers, but is open to all the young men who are preparing for active service in the Lord's work. We meet every Sabbath between the Sabbath school and church services. At this meeting, special subjects are presented by the older members, or our younger members are given an opportunity to speak. To many, this is their first attempt at public speaking, and is an excellent training. In the afternoon, the band goes to the city and distributes about 275 copies of Present Truth. Every Wednesday evening, one of our numbers speaks at the State Farm to the honor men. Twice a month on Wednesday evening, we hold services at the Ohio State Sanitarium for the tubercular patients. Every Wednesday night, a Bible reading is given in the city. One soul is considering accepting the truth, and $2.50 has been given for foreign missions. We have also been taking prayer meeting for the church on Wednesday evenings. Occasionally one of our members speaks at the mission in the city. Besides these meetings, we carry on, as missionary volunteers, our different lines of missionary work. The Lord has done great things for us, whereof we are glad. We are thankful that while in school we can be actively engaged in soul-saving work. We cannot now see the result of our work, but if the curtain which veils the future were drawn aside, we are sure we would see fruit from the seed which we have sown. Pray for our band. James Lippett, President. George Carter, Secretary.
From our Chinese student. I arrived in America July 17, 1918. This is the first time that I have ever visited this country. I think that I am very fortunate in having found this Christian school to attend. It is less expensive than most of the other schools, so I am satisfied. This school has a good commercial course in which I am most interested. My Christian experience has been good. I feel it is good for me to be where we are all taught of God. Thus far I have progressed in my subjects much better than I had ever anticipated. The credit, I am sure, is due to Christian teachers. When I finish my course in this school, it is my desire to return to China and help to carry on my father's commercial occupation. However, I intend that God's work in the third angel's message shall receive my cooperation and support. Y.K. Chow.
The Colporteurs Band. The Colporteurs Band of Mount Vernon Academy is a very popular feature of the school. This year it was organized about the 1st of February with 67 students enrolled. Professor Rockwell was chosen leader, Mr. James Lippert, assistant, Miss Hazel Reed, secretary, and Miss Mabel Butler, assistant. In this band, the students study the principles of salesmanship, and special instruction is given to both colporteurs and magazine workers. The Colporteurs Institute was held the first week in May. The field secretaries of the local conferences, with their assistants, were present, also the union secretaries. During this week, the students were taught how to meet every circumstance of the canvassing work, from the time they enter the field until they return to school. The band is very enthusiastic, and is looking forward to a summer of unparalleled success. They are going to do all they can to help the conference reach its goal. In the band are many students who have never had any experience in canvassing, but will be assisted by those of experience. And we know they will have many interesting experiences to relate when they return to school. Miss Erline Trapp.
The Medical and Surgical Sanitarium. Training School for Missionary Nurses. A registered school at the corner Sugar and Mulberry Streets in Mount Vernon, Ohio. This school offers a 3-year course of instruction in general nursing, including hydrotherapy, electrotherapy, massage, surgery, obstetrics, and so forth. Students wishing to enter training, phone or write. V. L. Fisher, M.D., Superintendent.
Faculty paragraphs. Progress is a great word and stands for life and development. Humanity is a living thing. To study it and its progress is a most fascinating task. Most gratifying is the privilege of seeing young men and women unfolding their powers and shaping themselves into living precious stones for the temple of the Lord. Greater in interest than the history of the Great War is and will be the record of the students of the Academy. Her influence, intellectual, social and spiritual, has been a tower of strength. It has made us all richer. Inspiration and training are the gifts of our school. May progress and accomplishment be the fruits of every one of her sons and daughters. Mr. Teasdale. History and French teacher. The study of science is but the consideration of the wonders of God's creative power. There is no subject aside from the Bible, which by the way is the greatest science textbook in the world, that opens up to the mind such visions of God's glory, wisdom, and power. The study of science, God's handiwork, will be occupation for endless ages to come. Quite to the contrary of the thought that arises in the mind of many youths, mathematics is not a science of man's devising, but it also is from God. How could we be honest in our relations with one another without mathematics? That God is the author of innumerable relations is proven by the recurring Sabbath day, by the regularity of the moon's phases, by the eclipse and comet that keep their appointments with the utmost precision for thousands upon thousands of years, by the number of the living righteous who will look up at Christ's coming, and say, "Lo, this is our God." Even music is essentially a science of numerical relations. The rhythm of music and the vibration of ratios of the notes of the scale are a matter of numerical calculation. Mr. Rockwell, science teacher. The importance of the study of English cannot be emphasized too much, as the following quotations will show. If your students, besides studying God's Word, learn no more than how to use correctly the English language in reading, writing, and speaking, a great work will have been accomplished. He who knows how to use the English language fluently and correctly can exert a far greater influence than one who is unable to express his thoughts readily and clearly. Counsels to Teachers, pages 207, 216. Mrs. Miller, English and Latin teacher. Music is a precious gift of God designed to uplift the thoughts to high and noble themes, to inspire and elevate the soul. It is one of the most effective means of impressing the heart with spiritual truth. How often to the soul, hard-pressed and ready to despair, memory recalls some word of God, the long-forgotten burden of a childhood song, and temptations lose their power. Life takes on new meaning and new purpose, and courage and gladness are imparted to other souls. Education, pages 167, 168. Mr. Miller, music teacher. What kind of a word will I give for MVA? Why, nothing but the best. Mount Vernon Academy was established 26 years ago for the purpose of training our young people for God's great work. We are indeed thankful that MVA is represented in so many distant lands by consecrated young men and women. The 9 years of my connection with this institution have been filled with thoughts and feelings of pleasure and enjoyment. When the time comes to part, it will be with sadness, but what a day of rejoicing when students and teachers meet on the other shore. As a faculty, we feel that our labors have not been in vain, for we have a class of earnest and sincere students, whose hope and ambition is to prepare for God's great vineyard. I have greatly enjoyed my work with the students and faculty of MVA, and as I leave its doors, perhaps never to return, at least as one of its instructors, my heart will always be at MVA. Future thoughts will be sweetest memories of bygone days. May God's richest blessing rest upon one and all, teachers and students, who may have the privilege of partaking of the future blessings of this noble institution. Miss Hart, Preparatory. 70 students have been enrolled in the commercial department during the past year. Instruction has been given to students of each grade as well as postgraduate work. Young people are coming to recognize more and more the importance of a commercial education. Although one may never plan to be a stenographer, a salesman, or a bookkeeper, the mental training obtained is a great asset. No line of work either in the world or among our own ranks can be mentioned but what some phase of commercial knowledge is required. Sister White has placed this line of education among the ABCs to be taught. Mount Vernon Academy is well equipped to offer superior instruction in these branches, and many should arrange to enroll in this department. Miss Boutel, Head of Commercial. The little white marble slab inserted in the east corner of the building marked free from debt is a constant reminder of God's continued blessing upon our school, which was established according to His divine plan. It is our purpose to put God first in all our dealings so that His blessings may continue. Our motto is, do what's right come what may. Mr. King, School Manager. To most everyone there is on this old Mother Earth a spot held dear because of some pleasant experiences. So in my experience, dear old MVA holds the place supreme, because it has been here that I spent 9 of the most pleasant years of my life. I am very proud to have been the school mother of so many fine girls for the past 5 years, and I trust that eternity will reveal some good accomplished. Mrs. King, Matron and Preceptress. It has been a great privilege to me to be connected with Mount Vernon Academy, a school that has been planted by the Lord, and to be associated with Christian students and teachers. I have thoroughly enjoyed my work with the young men of this school and will never forget the pleasant hours spent at dear old MVA. Mr. Stipek, Preceptor. Mount Vernon Academy, beautiful for situation, is not only a beautiful place, but a very good place for any young person to be who values a Christian education, above that which the world has to offer. Mrs. Stipek. When any nation is struggling for its principles of liberty or justice, there is developed among its patriots, those who the courage of their convictions, and their ability to persuade or inspire others, mold the mind of the masses into one common sentiment. Quoting from Christ Object Lessons, page 335, we have these words: "The power of speech is a talent that should be diligently cultivated." We feel very much encouraged by what the department at Mount Vernon Academy has accomplished in this line the past year, and hope many more will accept the opportunity to become more efficient workers in his service. Miss Crump, Oratory Teacher. In response to the testimonies, Mount Vernon Academy is strengthening her vocational departments. The carpentry department is well equipped. We have for machinery, a jointer, circular saw, and a band saw. We also have 6 manual training benches and as many sets of tools. We are prepared to give woodworking and cabinet making in the 9th and 10th grades. In the 11th and 12th grades, drawing and carpentry is taught. This includes the making of working drawings, inside and outside finishing, and steel square and framing. Mr. Rudolph, Carpentry.
"17 enthusiastic boosters for the scholarship plan." Seated, left to right, Miss Violet Murphy, Miss Hazel Reed, Miss Helen Guthrie, Miss Ella Martin, Miss Maud Wade, Miss Margaret Schmidt. Second row, Mr. George Carter, Mr. Clyde Newmier, Miss Ruth Miller, Miss Anna Schmidt, Miss Blanche Buttermore, Mr. Raymond Crite. Back row, Mr. Robert Klein, Mr. Edmund Miller, Mr. George Rapp, Mr. John B., Mr. James Lippett. These 17 MVA students made scholarships last summer selling publications of the Review and Herald Publishing Association. Washington Branch. Box 27. Tacoma Park, D.C. Students also should be trained to manage all different kinds of work connected with printing, such as typesetting, presswork and bookbinding. Volume 6, page 176. With the help of the different conferences and brethren throughout the Union, who send us their printing, we are striving to put this statement into practical effect at Mount Vernon. Already a number of our boys have put this training to use by helping to publish the Word. With the help of the Lord and the further encouragement of the brethren of the Union, we look for a greater advancement and even a more explicit fulfillment of the above quotation. Mr. Baker, Printing Department.
Become a nurse. The most wonderful work a young woman can enter. We offer exceptional advantages. Investigate our training school. Mount Vernon Hospital Sanitarium. Chase Welch, Superintendent.
Free travel expense selling the Watchman magazine, while earning a Watchman scholarship, or spending a profitable vacation. The Watchman plan gives you an average of $9 per 100. An average profit of 70 cents per subscription. Some excellent territories are now available. Send to any tract society for the free booklet entitled General Sales Information, covering the magazine work.
A moral tale. There are many things a man may learn that cost him many a dollar. They may yield a large return, yet folks will call him scholar. When tossed upon the sea of life, to earn his bread and butter, to clothe himself and eke his wife, He makes a failure utter. Or when his country's bugle note shall call him from his books. There's no service he can render. The DKP with the cooks. Now if in our department good, he'd learn to write the Greg. Or speed up on the Underwood. They'd shove him up a peg. Not only that, but our own cause could use his talent better. If you were able to keep books and write a business letter. The moral to this little lay is easy quite to see. Prepare to take commercial work in our academy. Ethel Templeton.
Are you coming? You and I may often think our program is of little concern to others, for they too are absorbed in their own routine and success. We plan and make decisions, we come and go and suppose our procedure makes little impression on others. But stop and recall that you have observed the course pursued by others under certain circumstances and that it has governed your decisions. Many quiet, matter-of-fact things in life have their influence. Then should we say, are you going to camp meeting this year? As though it depended on fancy or convenience? Rather bear in mind pages 40 to 42, volume 6 of the Testimonies. Someone's Christian experience will be strengthened then. Someone is waiting for our enthusiasm and plans before they decide. Why not you and I help as many as possible, and begin now? Make Ohio's 1919 camp a place of great uplift and encouragement. Mount Vernon welcomes you and the Master urges and invites you join in this great opportunity of the year. Remember the time August 14th to 24th, on the Academy grounds, and come. H.D. Holtom.